Hello. How's everybody doing? So, as of today, it has been like 1 year since I started streaming. Yeah, I am surprised. I am kind of proud of myself for not burning out, because it has been difficult. It's been a struggle. It's been very fun too, don't get me wrong. I've really enjoyed doing this, but here's to 1 year. So today I mostly wanted to in Ancient VOD, which was the first test stream that I did this day last year. So I believe what I did was I got a really simple overlay together, and I decided I would try to stream a old Mac game. Actually, it was called Ghosts. It was one of those sort of multimedia deals, like back when the CD format really started to take off. There were all these like multimedia games. Like Myst was the huge one. Myst is the one that really took off, and there were a whole ton of games that tried to follow in its footsteps, and games that tried to do their own thing with the format too. And Ghosts is a sort of paranormal take on that. Like, it presents these sort of ghost stories for you in the framing of like an investigation. So you get to hear like these cool stories about hauntings, things like that. So this stream only ended up lasting for like an hour, but it was pretty fun, and it was what really convinced me to really keep at it. One of the fun things we'll be seeing is my really old model. I started with a fairly different model than I have now. There are some similarities, but it was very different. I changed out of it and made a new one because I didn't feel it was representing me very well. I feel like it was sort of well, I don't know how to put it, but childish. Like, it's a very anime girl ooh thing, and like I was sort of following the trends a little bit, so I was like, oh, if I get like a cute youthful looking girl, it'll be great. But no, that didn't really work out for me. I didn't feel like it represented me well, so I changed things up later, and the eventual result of that is what you see here. I've made very few minor adjustments to my model since I settled on its general aesthetic. I've added the glasses, for example. I touched up the hair and the cosmetics on it, but otherwise it's pretty similar to what I've had since I changed it. That, like, it was pretty soon into when I was streaming, like maybe 2 or so months in, that I changed my model. But yeah, you guys will get to see my old dusty janky model. Not only that, but you get to see the Joker-fied version that I also made for the Halloween, because the test stream was sort of Halloween themed. It was like, it was the same time last year, so it was almost Halloween. So yeah, I Joker-fied my model for it. It was it was pretty fun. And yeah, I think that's it. So I'm going to start working on getting this up. Okay, here we go. All right. So without further ado, let's head into this. I've gotten it. You'll notice that it's a little bit into the video. That's because I left in the part where I had my like loading thing up. So yeah, we're just skipping past that and going right into it. So yeah, I think if there's nothing else anybody wants to talk about, we'll be going right into the video. And we can continue talking as it's going. I'll like stop it and speak up if I have something to say. Okay, let's go. No. All right, here we are. Okay. So as you can see, I had a pretty different overlay back then. It's a I tried, but it just I don't think it's very good in retrospect. It has a general aesthetic I was going for, and I don't mind it, but I think the background I used is just way too busy here. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Well, thanks, Darth Nightwing Phoenix. I appreciate it. So yeah, as you can see, I have my very real Macintosh computer up, and yeah, this is the stream that I played Ghosts. As you can see, my model at the time is in the corner here. Pretty different to what I have now, but you will notice similarities. So yeah, let's get this started. Hello? 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 My hair's clipping through my tits there. Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm here playing games. Yeah, and of course, it was mostly my friends tuning into today we're gonna be checking out a game called Ghosts. Ghosts. But first, I have something special for Halloween. So here it is, here it comes. It'll be just 1 second. Here we go. Yeah, there it is. I went Joker-fied. Okay, so pretty much all that I know about this is that it stars Christopher Lee. Wow, I had a I had a much more sort of stoner voice back then. It's kind of weird to hear. I still have that a little bit, but I think I've gotten a little better with it. But yeah, a big reason that I did my voice like that is because like it was really early on. It was my first time streaming. I was really anxious, so I put up that little screen of ironic detachment here, and you'll see that throughout this video. Like, I'm very ironically detached because I am not confident at all in what I'm doing, and it shows. And it's supposedly something to do with ghost hunters, like the kind you see on TV. Let's go for it. Let me know if my audio levels are off. My audio is slightly worse, of course. I didn't have the filters I do now. This is very 90s.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Lee.
Hi, Christopher. Oh, hey. It's Christopher Lee. They really went all out with that edge detection filter. Parapsychologist. Parapsychologist, jeez. The poltergeist investigator too. Why didn't I remark on that? Catholic priest. Father John Nuttall. Robin Furman, the first werewolf hunter, ghost hunter. Dave Hornsby, the first demon. Very smart world design. Nigel, run for the hills. Yeah, if I did this now, I would be making way more name quips. Because otherwise, this is it's a pretty boring intro. It's just like static images dissolving into each other. It's like it's got point and click controls. What's this? That creepy knocker. That knocker face.
Welcome to Hobbs Manor, my friend.
There's Christopher Lee.
Please excuse me for calling you out at such a late hour.
No problem.
You had a pleasant journey. Mark my words, you have an eventful time ahead of you.
Well,
allow me to introduce myself properly. My name is Dr. Marcus Grimalkin, and I've devoted my life to the study of the paranormal. It is time for me to decide once and for all whether ghosts are reality or fiction.
They're fake, dude.
You can help me to make this decision.
I'm gonna turn my desktop audio up.
Hobbs Manor, a house that is world famous for its ghostly activities.
Yeah, that should be a little louder for you guys.
Life's work. I came here to gather the evidence around me, the documents, films, and records that I have painstakingly collected over the years. Make use of.
Because yeah, when I was doing this, I had the
You will have to look carefully.
I had the audio down a little bit.
In this house, appear to gain a life of their own.
Yeah, you can see how I didn't have a very great grasp of audio yet.
You may be rewarded with great knowledge, but be warned, you may not like everything that you find.
Well, I'll agree with that. Let's take out of this desk first. What's this? Package. A bunch of stuff in it. I still do ums and ahs, but John Nuttall. Father John Nuttall. Whatever. What processes does the church go through to help someone who is disturbed by a haunting? What is the point of performing an exorcism? What happens during an exorcism? Are ghosts evil in any way? Oh, I guess these are selections. Oh, hey, Red Witch. Yeah, this is a avatar I created through Vroid Studio. Right now, the program that I'm using to sort of display it on the screen here is called VC Face. Yep, still use that. Pretty good. Gotten improvements, still well. Pretty good software. Right, so let's see. Guess I can choose these. Well, oh, it plays a little video. That's cute. Yeah. This is the classic FMV stuff, just like this tiny little video in this big interface. That's sort of how things went. You gotta compress these videos somehow. Easiest way is to make them tiny. Face is like totally free. I was looking at Luppet too, but like it seemed a little bit better, but definitely not $60 better. That's for sure.
But I certainly wouldn't dismiss the idea of there being such things, obviously. So the first thing is really.
There's my old yeah, you should. Luppet opinion. Really fun. It's very fun to mess with.
And then, or we know wherever it's taking place, and thereafter then just to offer.
Yeah, I think the person I'm talking to here did start VTubing at some point. I need to look into that. They're like also a member on a Discord server I'm on.
A kind of stepped service almost. We wouldn't call in the bouncers, as it were, straight away. Be something quite gentle. If that wasn't working, then we'd probably progress to the next stage. And then the third stage...
Yeah, that's that Discord with my friend is pretty much the only place that I advertise the stream, because it was like a test stream mostly. I was just seeing like if I could do this, if I was capable, if it was possible, if I had the tech, if I had the capability. And yeah. Okay, so what's the point of performing an exorcism then? I ended up keeping up with it for at least this year.
We're talking.
So that's pretty cool.
An exorcism, which is more to do with the presence of evil. And
unfortunately, you can't really hear this guy's mumbling. You probably wouldn't be able to hear it even if I wasn't talking over it.
Is actually driven out, whatever form it may actually.
But my audio levels were just too low for this.
A little bit more radical than the way that we would actually treat with ghosts themselves. Perhaps I ought to point out as well that not everybody.
My mic is fine, but the desktop audio way too low.
That a bishop in the diocese would actually appoint a man, normally a priest, to actually do the exorcism.
I think mostly just needed some filters in to get rid of the noise.
A few years ago, it has to be somebody who is incredibly holy, because apparently partway.
Oh yeah, super holy.
Right, which again I haven't witnessed myself. The demon, as it comes out of whatever it's in, is liable to shout the sins out of the man who's performing the exorcism. So
that sounds embarrassing.
Be careful that one doesn't sort of trip into.
Every time I watch my own VODs, I'm always very surprised by how often I blink. It doesn't feel that often, but I blink a lot. Like, I don't know if it's a thing I have to be worried about, but yeah, I blink a lot. Maybe it's just because I'm staring at a screen for both like my work and my playtime. So that's a lot of staring at a screen in a day, you know?
Faults and sins are going to be broadcast around.
Hi, Underbed Umbra, thank you. Oh yeah, and you wouldn't want that happening to a Catholic priest, I tell you that. So what happens during Catholic priest joke? Jeez.
There are two basic formats for an exorcism. One is used quite frequently, where one is actually aware of something within all of us that's not quite right. Church calls that sin, if you like, but it's the same origin. We're talking about the very presence of something which isn't
good. Again, if I could just illustrate that, I mean, this is quite a gentle little format where we would pray over an individual or a group of individuals and say something like, Father of mercy, you led the man born blind to the...
So one thing I still kind of do, I feel like, out of respect for the thing I'm streaming, I don't talk over, like, most voiceovers. Like, sometimes if I really gotta say something, I'll say it. But, like, if there's, like, voice acting going on in the game I'm playing, I like to just, like, step back for a little bit and save my remarks for after. So I'm glad to see that I did it way back then, too.
Kingdom of light.
Again, to an extent.
Faith in your Son. Free these from false values that surround and blind them. Set them firmly in your truth, children of the light forever. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
That's poem, dude.
And every day.
Here's the irony again.
Every day. There is a second form, though, which is perhaps much, much more serious, and there we would eventually have to call in the designated man from the diocese who would be appointed by the bishop to actually do an exorcism. Now, I've never actually witnessed one, but I've spoken to an exorcist, and it normally has to be accompanied, in the case of the exorcist, by a lot of prayer and fasting, actually prior to the little ritual. In the actual ritual itself, again, there is prayer. There's usually the laying on of hands to actually expel the presence of evil, devil, demon, whatever we would want to call it. And then very often, nearly always, a sprinkling with holy water. The tie there with the use of holy water is to baptism, when we were actually made children of God. So
the way my
to install the presence of
avatar is with, like, the Joker makeup, it looks like I'm constantly staring in disbelief at everything that's going on.
The only other little detail I think that probably needs to be added is that it can be, again I've gleaned this secondhand from the exorcist himself, can be quite a violent thing. If
Oh yeah, no
the
kidding.
presence
I've
of
seen the
evil
movie.
is so strong. He said that having done this, which was done in a kind of an old-fashioned vestry with wrought iron windows or what have you round about the actual baptistry, he was actually hurled against the wrought iron. So
Oh, no shit.
a force, if you like.
I also seem to have settings that are making my model a little shaky. I don't think I was capturing myself too well.
Lightly, and again, it's what somebody has to be designated by the...
Need a little more motion capture smoothness there. Okay, so the question we all want answered. Are ghosts evil in any way?
No. I think if we went to the simple definition of a disembodied presence of somebody who died, we'd actually say a ghost is no more or no less than just simply something which is non-physical, non-material, can't actually touch.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm complaining again about my own audio levels. This is awful.
experience.
Gotta make that louder, Noemi of the past.
Body or something pass by them, the hairs on their arms sort of stand up on end. Somebody actually described it as she felt that somebody had gone physically right through her, and it was just chilling.
Maybe I can make it a little louder for you guys so you can hear. Like, I have some filters I can adjust here. Okay. Let me know if this is bad. I increased output gain on desktop audio.
So I wouldn't say that ghosts are manifestations of evil. If we went one stage, if we took that as
I'm monitoring the bars here.
one stage above that, we'd actually talk about poltergeists. A little bit more physical there. There you've got sort of things coming off pictures and things flying around rooms and what have you. But again, the general definition is more of a mischievous spirit and not actually wishing evil.
Adjusting on the fly here, looking at the bars.
And the third, and probably the most extreme case, we'd say, diametrically opposed to ghost, is where one would need to think about exorcism, a positive manifestation of something which was evil or which wished to cause harm to another individual.
Hmm. There are little movies in this. That's kind of cute. Butler John Nuttall is a Roman Catholic priest who preaches in the county of Surrey. He is fascinated by the subject of ghosts and has helped members of his parish in the past who have experienced hauntings. I heard that was a little loud. That's the... trying to find a good balance between the low audio of what I'm streaming and the audio of me speaking into the mic in this video. I think the output gain I have now should be good. Spooky nut. Ghosts and spirits in religion. The majority of faiths that are practiced by the population of the planet accept that spirits or ghosts of some form or another exist. These spirits may be in the form of angels, demons, gods, or devils, materializations of human emotions such as good, evil, and holiness. Good, evil, and holiness. Universal fascination with death for at least 50,000 years. Archaeological digs have resulted in experts believing that the Neanderthals painted their dead with pigments and dyes, indicating that they believed in life after death. The ancient Egyptians performed elaborate funeral rites on their dead and entombed them with possessions, food, clothing, and even boots that would ensure a comfortable passage in the afterlife. A comfortable passage into the afterlife. I think that's all I'll read from that. Okay. What is this?
This diver's helmet belonged to Mr. Montague. He caught the bug for underwater exploration. Unfortunately,
A serious
rather
bug.
large octopus caught him.
No, you don't say. Thanks, Christopher Lee. What's in here? Got a little basement here. Oh my god. There's a computer within the computer. So many computer layers. Oh, so this is just like a glossary of all sorts of things. I like how it uses the UI elements for the theme that I have on the Mac here. I used there's this old program called Kaleidoscope, which let you customize a Mac OS theme. And yeah, I set mine to like a cute girly one that I liked. That's why I like everything in the very real Macintosh is really pink. This baby.
A fascinating piece of machinery was constructed.
Oh, look.
In case we needed to be... I mean,
It's the Ghostbuster.
with a terrifying entity of some sort. Because people often say to us, have you ever been frightened with what you're doing?
Look at that fucking thing.
But you never know.
Yeah, it is pretty
In
interesting.
fact, literally, like the Ghostbusters, we could sort of, you know, fire
Oh, you said it.
And we might have an epileptic ghost if we did that. But it is a very real piece of machinery. Now,
Oh yeah, very real.
complicated, but
I
it's
believe you.
on the side of the machinery,
Is the irony again?
a GSR machine, galvanic skin response machine, which you hold in one hand, and if you see something that's frightening, you could sweat. You might not realize you were sweating, but there would be a response in the palm of your hand. This then emits a high-pitched buzz, and if you felt uncomfortable, you think, my God, people have reported a sinister...
Look at this guy's sweater. That's like a Christmas sweater. Amazing.
And if you began to feel uncomfortable, it would be responded, you get a sound here, and then if you wanted to, even though you couldn't see it with your physical eyes, you could nevertheless upset it with that. It's very difficult.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll be very scared of that.
To decide what is, as it were, subjective or objective. It's something that you think you're going to feel, or is there something really there? On one occasion we used it when there was something really there. We used it in a deserted church. We fired the beam of light at a swirling green, ominous mist, which exploded into trillions of glistening lights and rushed out of the door and disappeared. Now,
no kidding.
Or believe it not, that doesn't matter to me. But the fact is, it came in useful. We liked the machine, we developed it, and it's fun. But the galvanic skin response machine does help you to decide if you are actually physically responding to something anyway. Now, there's a lot more that could be said, but it's probably beyond the scope of what we're recording just now.
Nice machine, dude. It's a spider. It's a spider. What's that? It's another image of the spider. I like when past me says, almost, but not exactly the same thing.
Charged ions in the
This sweater, these guys all have like amazing Christmas sweaters on.
positive.
Really something.
It gives people bad impressions of the atmosphere of the place.
Oh,
Negative
yeah, I hate
good,
positive people.
People feel quite good. So an excess of positive ions in a room would cause people to feel it was unpleasant, spooky, had a bad atmosphere and so on. So we will check that out using this piece of equipment to see if there's any sort of reason why people might be feeling bad about a place anyway. And it could be that a ghost has some form of ionizing field that causes people to see it.
Oh yeah.
Ionized air will glow.
You might want to check out your ionizing fields there, buddy.
Looking around here, I'm afraid we're getting no unusual readings at all.
Good grief.
Where the ghost was seen. So at the moment,
Good grief.
there is nothing untoward happening, unfortunately.
That sweater alone's gotta produce all sorts of ions. What was that?
Is a wand sensor. It's a type of thermometer. And the useful thing about that is...
There's Robin Furman again.
A long lead so we can investigate temperatures physically, but
Talking about ghost antennas.
it's an illuminated digital readout, it's very useful for seeing even in the dark. And the change of temperature is noticed directly. Now, we can...
Yeah, I wish I
just here,
increased my audio levels.
a phantom has been...
It's no fun if I'm like silent through all these movies, but you still can't hear them.
You see. It may or may not be. So we can look. Somebody said, there was something on this chair there. So we can actually leave it. Now, we can actually leave the thing, so we're not disturbing anything. We can go to where the readout is, even if it were in another room, because we can have the wire as long as we wish and see what's taking place at a distance. Good idea. So it's simple in essence, but it's the interpretation of the data that it gives us that is important, you see.
Sure, there's lots of things that we want to keep a distance from you, buddy. Stuff in these? Don't think there's an inventory system in this, so I can't pick that up. What's here? Oh, more videos. Sue Blackmore. Do you believe there is fraudulence involved in lab experiments?
That's a very difficult question, and I don't know the answer. I have been involved with a couple of cases where
At least this lady doesn't mumble.
And even then, I couldn't be absolutely sure that it was. There are very few experiments that reliably get good results. At the moment, the Ganzfeld experiments done by Charles Oniton in the States stand up as the most impressive laboratory results that there are. Now, I don't know how those came about. If those experiments have been done the way they are written up in the literature, then then it looks as though they're due to psi, because they certainly couldn't be due to sensory leakage. But fraud is a very difficult one. You never can completely rule out fraud. However hard you try, there's always somebody who could come and cheat. Somebody who's designed the experiment can always see a way around it. Someone who's written the programs that run it can always see a way around it. It's very, very difficult to design.
Yeah, I'm mostly just staring into space watching these videos in this game.
Is that we have theories that get better and better.
Pretty much the best way to approach something like this, I guess. Like, you want to show these videos off. Like, that's part of the charm.
On one great proof, and if that's fraudulent, the whole thing falls down. I think it's sad to say some of the most important psychic experiments have been.
Oh, I should say, I'm sorry if
in the 1940s.
you're actually like interested in the game itself, and I'm like speaking over all of it. Here's one from Rodney Mitchell. Ghostbusters UK. Rodney Mitchell describes Robo-Ghost. Fucking Robo-Ghost.
It's a computer system that is monitoring a number of sensors which...
He's got that old computer.
This is one of them which is nearby. This is a temperature sensor, a small, very sensitive sensor which is...
Something about the juxtaposition of that old computer, the sweater he's wearing, and how he looks is just so amazingly vintage. Oh wow, no
As the
kidding.
temperature goes up, it's recorded and into the computer's memory, and we can take it off onto a floppy disk and then analyse the data at a later stage. And what is more, this machine will give a warning.
Fortunately, a lot of these nerd guys are mumbling.
Fairly drastically. I don't know if it'll do it for
Must have made it hard to hear them.
to get a significant effect. I don't think I am, but you can see the temperature fluctuating.
Pretty disappointing for something named Robo-Ghost. I was hoping for a robot ghost that fights crime. Yeah, that would have been better than a cop that fights crime. Ghosts and technology. I just skipped through all these because I didn't want to read them. What's up with this projector? Maybe I can mess with this machine. Doesn't look like it. Okay. What's up with the wine? If they have any good wine. Can't interact with the wine, sadly. Eh. Let's go back up. Love that basement. It's so computer graphics. Check out that 90s. There's a room next to this, I think. Yeah. Something about 90s pre-rendered stuff is just mwah, chef's kiss. A little dining area. Oh, I think there was a good ghost story in here. Nice and spooky. Oh, look, poison. Oh, look, poison.
Justice is often blind, and there are some who would sooner take the law into their own hands than see a crime go unpunished. The case of Nell Cook, the servant of a canon of Canterbury Cathedral, plainly illustrates the dangers of setting oneself up as
I'm gonna let this
jury,
play out.
executioner.
Let's listen to the story.
Attended house for the new canon of Canterbury Cathedral as best she could, and was rewarded for her diligence and devotion by deceit and gross impropriety. She had not always felt this way, and when the canon gave his first mass in the cathedral, she was suitably impressed by the character of her new employer. The old canon, who mercifully passed away after many years of ill health, was a kind but ineffectual cleric, more concerned with getting his meals on time than spreading the word of the Lord. Now, here before her was clearly a man of passion who had directed his considerable energies and charisma in the service of the church, and yet there was something about the new canon, like the way he would never look her in the eye before he went to visit parishioners who had sought advice on spiritual matters,
Spooky.
or his often extreme moodiness and irritability after returning from some of these calls. Nell put this down to his youth and passionate temperament, but she would soon find out the depths of his feelings. The canon was a man who kept odd hours, and it was difficult for Nell to arrange meals at set times. One evening, after watching the stew she had labored over all afternoon grow cold on the dresser, she decided to wait for him to come home so that she could broach
Big
the matter
mistake.
forthwith. Late that night, Nell was drifting in and out of sleep in the kitchen when she heard the scuffle of feet and whispered giggling from the drawing-room upstairs. She couldn't believe it was the canon. She crept up the stairs to catch a glimpse of the intruders, and was sickened to the stomach by the sight that greeted her eyes. The young canon, obviously inebriated, was on the stairs,
scandalous.
very familiar with a young woman. But the real shock
There,
came
how
when the priest's
untoward.
companion turned around, revealing
There you go.
his other and his own niece.
Gasp.
Nell could bear the scene no longer, and stole off to her own room to a fitful rest. In the morning, the niece was nowhere to be seen, and the canon seemed in particularly high spirits. His hypocrisy appalled Nell, and she had to take her leave with some feeble excuse about tending to something on the stove. In the kitchen, her sanctuary, Nell brooded over the night's events. She decided to bide her time, as this might be isolated indiscretion, not uncommon amongst men of the cloth. But deep down she feared the worst, and her instincts were soon borne out. The canon's niece started making more frequent calls on her uncle at his quarters, and their conduct together became more brazen and unforgivable. It was not something Nell could discuss with anyone else, so she resolved to deal with the matter herself. One evening, when she expected the canon's niece for dinner, she expressly made the priest his favorite meal, mutton pie, emptying a bottle of arsenic into the filling, and grimly smiling at the irony of
Nice arsenic.
After serving the pie to them, Nell waited by the dining room
Look at her
door,
expression there.
wondering if the effect
Yeah, I agree. Very nice.
nothing happened.
Should
Asking
send that to a Good Faces bot.
The canon congratulated her on an excellent dinner, as usual, and said that he and his niece would retire to the study where she would help him work on tomorrow's sermon. Nell hurried to the kitchen to check that she had used the right bottle, when she heard a cry from above, the study. The poison must be doing its mischief, and so Nell took her time responding to the desperate pleas for help. When she reached the room, she found the canon and his niece writhing on the floor in agony, foam the color of sage forming around their mouths, and their eyes wide with terror and supplication. But Nell simply watched them with a curious detachment, as if none of this was really
Look like they've been crudely photoshopped.
and retired to bed. Yet her awakening was violent, wresting her from a deep slumber. Upon opening her eyes, she saw a crowd of people in her room, all speaking in agitated tones, and the most vehement amongst them was the man now shaking her roughly by the shoulders. Still drowsy, Nell could not fathom what her assailant was babbling, but when he mentioned the poison, the hairs rose on the back of her neck, and she recalled her actions of the previous night.
You didn't dispose the bodies.
Like a dream.
Not very smart.
Now, fully roused, she attempted to explain, to defend herself, but those gathered in her room were well past listening and only sought vengeance for the slaying of their priest. Nell was dragged from bed and into the streets, where the people who had once been her friends and neighbors turned on her with a viciousness that was breathtaking. Stones caught her in the head and chest, forcing her to her knees, blood pouring freely from a gash on her cheek, and still it rained stones, pounding her into the ground, her arms uselessly hanging by her sides, and then succumbed to the darkness.
That's a pretty dark story, Christopher Lee.
Yeah,
Thanks for the story, Christopher Lee.
Found herself at the bottom of a deep pit, looking up at her tormentors, some of whom had shovels in their hands. She desperately tried to raise herself, railing against her attackers and accusing the priest of terrible sins, but their response to this blasphemy was a clump of earth that hit her hard in the face, filling her mouth and choking off her appeal. And then the next mound of dirt landed on her, and the next, until her body was covered by damp, cool soil. The last thing she saw through the clod of mud clinging to her cheeks was the poison bottle being thrown into the grave with her. And then the darkness truly closed in. Forever. The passage between the
Sudden cut.
and the Green Court in Canterbury Cathedral is known as the Dark Entry, and Nell Cook's spirit is said to wander through this foreboding corridor, lamenting the injustice of her fate. It is also said that any who look upon the wretched apparition will soon taste death themselves.
Thanks for the story, Christopher Lee. I said the same thing there. What else is in here? Some pans. Some pan representation there. Oven. Sacks. Let's say that sacks. Okay. What was I thinking? Sink. Gasp. That's a blood sink. What's on the table there? Gloves. Let's see this. What's in here? Happy Halloween. Spooky. Very spooky. Lovely. See. What's in here?
Remember the words of the Spirit.
Oh, you don't have a story about the little corkscrew there?
Are you sure you want to leave the house now?
Yeah, not quite yet. What else is in here? Oh, a creepy mask.
As you walk around Hobbs Manor, you will almost certainly find some portraits and films of experts like myself in the field of the paranormal. Tony Cornell has over 30 years' experience in the field of paranormal study and investigation.
Oh, no kidding.
He has developed a sophisticated ghost detecting machine called Spider, which travels with
Okay.
of ghostly locations.
Oh, yeah, I saw that thing.
Dr.
Christopher
Susan
Lee
Blackmore,
talking about Spider.
senior lecturer at the University of the West of England. She has a doctorate in parapsychology and has written widely on the subject. She was awarded the Distinguished Skeptics Award in California in 1991 and has been involved in the production of many television programs on the paranormal. Robin Furman is a trained psychologist and expert in the field of the paranormal. He founded Ghostbusters UK in 1984 and has since investigated hundreds of hauntings.
And had
Father
several
John Nuttall
legal suits,
is a
I
Roman
guess.
Catholic priest who preaches in the county of Surrey. He is fascinated by the subject of ghosts. And
The joke there is because they use the trademark name Ghostbusters. This is a very strange texture for a vase to have. Wait, is Ghostbusters? Yeah, it has to be. Because they got in that big scuffle with, what was it? Another like
was on a
media property
Sunday
called
morning,
the
war, 8
Ghostbusters.
o'clock, at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the group of people I was with went off for a walk, and I decided
That's why like
I was going to
some of the
trumpet.
media is for Ghostbusters called the real Ghostbusters.
Quite suddenly I was terrified.
If I remember
I
right.
mean, I really was absolutely petrified. I was cold, I had shivers down my back, and I was so scared I ran into
But
the
yeah,
house.
the trumpet
I
does
didn't
that
know
to
why I was
people.
scared, I just was. What I realised was when I stopped playing, there was no sound at all, nothing. No birds, no pigeons, the trees weren't moving, none of the trees. Now in a forest, the chance of trees not being moved by wind is almost nil, but nothing was moving, there was no sound at all. That night, I was in bed, I don't know what time it was, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it was quite late, and I woke up, and again I was absolutely terrified, and I couldn't breathe this time. I mean, I really couldn't breathe. I was, and that was it. But there was definitely something was getting at me that day. The two incidents just couldn't, especially the still trees. I mean, that's the thing. Still trees and no birds singing in a forest.
Everything still.
Well, if that wasn't being haunted, I don't know what was.
Hello, TNG, the Neko Gamer.
Really quite a serious thing, which I'll never forget.
How you doing? Oh, very haunting. I'm curious, what else did I look at in this game? There's not a ton left. Oh, wow. Did anything ever frighten you? Start with Robin Furman, the ghost hunter.
The case at the empty, haunted church where the team and I went to look because we'd been...
Oh, nice. You're a trans woman? That's poggers. Sorry.
Particular church I didn't
That's
know.
cool.
But when we went there, figures did move in the gloom. There were tombstones which had been disturbed. This strange mist filtered into the church. The atmosphere was intensely oppressive. That was probably the most frightening case that we actually went to.
Yeah, in case you, spooky. Don't know, I am, let's see, non-binary investigator.
Oh, there's one case I think that was interesting from the point of view that my fellow investigator and myself were somewhat scared. You get blasé about this, but we were in a house, an old house up in the Fens, north of Cambridge, and in a room that nobody would sleep in or live in because they said funny things happened to them, and they were using it to store furniture, and when they put electricity in the house they put everything else but in that one room, and we're in there and sitting there, and we got all the other helpers, actual members of the University Society downstairs.
Maybe it's not my audio levels. Maybe the people in this game just mumbled. The Ouija board, I know about those.
Thumps coming. We locked the door.
Use them to summon Ouija.
Direction across the bare boards, and I'm
You know, the Ouija board that summon Ouija. Very good joke there past me.
Bang, bang, bang. We've got 2 torches. And we're showing, I mean, we've known each other for years. I knew he wasn't doing it, he knew it. But it got quite scary because a thump, 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 you see. And the last thump was on a brass bedstead over my head. And I thought, wow, I don't like this. And Alan said the same, more or less the same thing. People were making a noise downstairs, and we used that as an excuse to get out and tell them to keep quiet. We got to the door, and we forgot that we had put strings across there in case somebody was going to take us for a ride. And we went through there and collided with that, came back, and as we came back, we heard a noise, and we swung our torches around, and we saw a chair going across the room and land bang on the wall.
Sounds like some Scooby-Doo shit, dude. Yeah, that was a great story. Right. Unless Sue Blackmore, skeptic.
Lots of things have frightened me, but not ghostly things. In the course of investigating supposedly haunted places, I've been down in cellars with no lights on and no torch, just hoping something will come out of the slimy walls. I've slept in several bedrooms where I've been told no one slept there for 20 years, and I sort of go to bed and go to sleep, wishing something spooky would come along. As a child, I can certainly remember seeing apparitional type things and being frightened, but nowadays if I see something like that, I think, oh,
there we go, the fearless skeptic.
My own mind, so it's not remotely frightening. I'm quite happy to go to bed at night, see all kinds of things being created by my mind, and they don't spook me. So the answer is no, but of course it might happen. I might get a terrible shock and one day go to a haunted place and see that ghost that I so far don't believe in.
There's a lot of drawers. What's in there? There's a creepy little... I think the idea is that, like, she's a paranormal skeptic, and her whole deal is that she looks into paranormal occurrences and tries to disprove them. Not necessarily because she doesn't believe they could possibly happen, but because she wants to eliminate frauds and make sure that if there ever is a real paranormal experience, it doesn't get lumped in with all the others. I think that's sort of how her position as a skeptic in this context works. And Dr. Susan Blackmore is a senior lecturer at the University of West of England. She was one of the first British people awarded a doctorate in parapsychology. A little bit of Nancy Drew flavor here. It's written widely on the subject. She was awarded the Distinguished Skeptics Award in California in 1991 and has been involved in the production of many television programs on the paranormal. Tony Cornell has over 30 years' experience in the field of paranormal study and investigation. He has developed a sophisticated ghost-detecting machine called SPIDER. Spontaneous Psychophysical Incident Data Electro. I think it is really funny how these paranormal people, like, name their machines and stuff, all these, like, ridiculous names. They're, like, total nerds who, like, they can't stop themselves from doing things that won't get them taken seriously, if you know what I mean. It's really funny. Especially since they're in the 90s, like late 80s by this point. Electronic recorder, which travels with him to the hundreds of ghostly locations that he investigates. That is a interesting name for your machine, dude. Yeah, I say it there. Okay. Let's see the videos. Tony Cornell talking about Tony Cornell's poltergeist experience.
Oh, there's one case I think that was interesting from the point of view that my fellow investigator and myself were somewhat scared. You get blasé about this, but we were in a house, an old house up in the Fens, north of Cambridge, and in a room that nobody...
Yeah, I'm sure they've moved on to names that will get them taken more seriously.
When they put electricity in the house, they put everything else but in that one room. And we're in there.
But man, seriously,
All the other helpers,
Spider,
the members of the
Robo Ghost,
doing a Ouija board.
it's just like,
To communicate, but to get everybody round so that we could control them.
you know you're not going to be taken seriously and you're just taking the piss at that point.
From that direction across the bare boards. And I'm saying to Alan, my friend,
Honestly, I understand if nobody's going to believe anything you say, you might as well go silly with a few things. I don't see anything wrong with that. I forgot to turn off my Nightbot alerts for the thing I'm doing this month. Same video from before.
And the last son was on a brass bedstead over my head. And I thought, wow, I don't like this. And Alan said the same, more or less the same thing. That people were making a noise downstairs, and we used that as an excuse to go down and tell them to keep quiet. We got to the door, and we forgot.
Yeah, if any of you didn't know, I am doing a sort of Dark Souls event this month where, for this last character, I'm doing lots of co-op and invasion stuff. But yeah, it's been fun. Back to the video. Yeah, it definitely is.
And collided with that. Came back, and as we came back, we heard a noise.
We're almost done here.
Our torches around, and we saw a chair going across.
Yeah, we can skip that. Stu Blackmore's poltergeist experience.
One of the most interesting cases I investigated many years ago now was in an ordinary council house in North Bristol. I was called there because the family had been seeing strange lights in the sky, and the UFO group had started investigating it. But then odd things started to happen in their house. They were seeing strange things, they were hearing strange things, they saw the lights swinging when there was no one there. They heard somebody opening the front door, but there wasn't anybody there. The clock was jumping along the mantelpiece of its own accord when nobody touched it, and the television was changing channels spontaneously with nobody near it. So they called me in to try and find out what was happening. I found a very pleasant and interesting family. I got on fine. I went there a day a week for many weeks and sat there and watched. And of course nothing happened. And I got them to keep a diary, and I put various pieces of apparatus in there to detect what was going on, and nothing was detected at all. I put a sort of fraud
no kidding.
piece of apparatus there, and they didn't fall for that and commit any frauds, which meant that I could relax a bit about that. And then one day when I was sitting there, the clock jumped along the mantelpiece. And I thought, wow, you know, at last something psychic's happened. Amazing. So I wanted to find out, was this to do with the position on the mantelpiece? Would any clock in that position jump? Or was it something about the clock haunted or the place haunted? So I thought the best thing to do was replace that clock with another clock and take
the bots back then, there were a lot more of them.
So I got them to put another
They're
clock
still
on.
around, like, and they still
to my desk,
ask
put
if
it
you
down
want
on
to
my
become
desk,
famous too.
working, day after day, and suddenly it went and I thought, whatever this is, whether it's a
Like, I think I just banned one of them last stream.
So I took it to a technician.
It's still around.
Specializes in mending clocks, and he took it to bits, and he told me that it was a very cheap metal 1950s clock with a very heavy, old, dirty spring in it. It was totally clogged up.
My model's bugging out here.
Dirt and so on.
There it goes
And
again.
what happened was, you wind the spring tight, it all sticks together with this gooey stuff, and then as it unwinds, it sticks, and then jumps. And because the clock's so light, and it was on
I think I was banning the bot there.
a long way along. And that was the beginning of dismantling the story. It turned out that the television channels could be changed by various kinds of sounds, ultrasound, that could be produced by the rattling of dogs'
I
chains.
shouldn't need to say it, but don't type that link in.
Other sounds.
I don't know if it still works for them, but yeah.
And gradually the whole thing fell to pieces. Now I still don't know whether really the lights were swinging when nobody was there, as the people said. I never saw that happen, and I have only their word to go on. And that's how it's always been. Things I've been able to investigate have turned out to have a normal explanation, and a lot remains that I just don't know.
Okay, well, have you any explanation for the Rosenheim poltergeist case?
I think that's a very difficult and interesting case. I knew some of the people who were there, and everybody I talked to who'd been there came back with a totally different account of what had happened. What seems most interesting to me about that case is the telephone bills and the idea that you couldn't dial fast enough to get the speaking clock. But I've never been able to find out, although I have tried, to get a transcript of the phone bill or anything that would show me that was really true. As far as I'm concerned, from the investigations I've done, that remains a fascinating bit of hearsay that I haven't been able to track down. That's always how it is, and it's very frustrating, because maybe it's true and I'm wrong, but I can never seem to get hold of a bit of evidence that's really convincing.
Vicky Clark presently lives in student lodgings close to her college. Unexplained events have plagued her in the last
My
few
name is
months.
Vicky Clark. I moved in October, and about 3 weeks after that the events started to happen. I did have 2 other roommates, but they've both moved out now. One left the course and the other one's found other accommodation. So it's just me on my own now. There was one night, it was quite scary. There was us 3 girls that stay here, living here, and one of my roommates woke up because she'd heard banging around her head, and she got quite frightened about it, and then she felt something brush over her face. So I got up and turned the light on, and we said, look, there's nothing here, it's all right, you know, we're just being silly, because we were getting worried about it at this point. And so we all sort of calmed down, and we turned the light back off, and then I got into bed, and when I got into bed there was a toilet roll in my bed. I don't know quite how it got in there, but and then when I woke up in the morning, there was black, like, tarry stuff in my bed as well. It was on my pyjamas, and it was on the cover, and it was on the sheet, and it wasn't there when I
hate to be the one to tell you this, but I think you got pranked.
So I don't know where that had come from.
Yeah.
And yeah, one day I went down.
I still think that's the most obvious answer here.
Back up, it had moved a chair all the way across the room to right behind the door. I mean, we tried to work out if someone could have done it, but no one could get their arm round the door to pull the chair in enough. Also, we had some pennies on top of the desk one day, and it just it flicked one and it spun on the floor and then settled down. And also bottles fall off the side, but they don't tip over, they land upright. Also, I went home for a week because I wasn't very well, and the girls next door...
Yes, that is a lot of different weird stuff going on.
No one was in here because I'm the only one with the key now. No one's ever seen anything. It just seems to move things. We don't quite know why.
Spooky. Again with that noise. That's just the same thing again. Okay. I just wanted this to be a sort of test stream, so I think I'll leave it for now. Yep, there's the, this is a good place to stop, since it's like, yeah, this is around where I ended it, where I am. So, thanks for anybody who stuck around. I'll be, streaming for real, probably tomorrow if I can do so. Hey, TNG, the Nico Gamer. Thank you for the follow. Going to leave now. Bye. And that is the end of the first test stream that I ever did. Hey, Millennium Cyborg, thank you. So yeah, let's move on over back to the other overlay. We're done here. Okay, it was interesting seeing that again. Man, some things about that were okay, but wow. That was long before I figured my shit out. It was kind of fun to go back and look into that though. Just like see what I did well, what I did badly. First of all, that wasn't a great game to stream. I was like sitting back being silent for a lot of the FMVs, but they weren't. There was some funny stuff in there, but it wasn't enough to carry the stream. Like, If it were a funnier FMV game like, what's it called? Ripper? That's a really funny one. If it were like Ripper, that would work out fine. Just like having a bunch of the actors chewing the scenery and stuff. But it was mostly just like talking about ghosts. There was some funny stuff, like the machines they used were like hilarious. And the things they named them. Spider. Robo Ghost. This is pretty great. And I did like the ghost stories. They were interesting and cool. Very spooky. But yeah, not the best game to stream to start with. And I would be like quiet for a while, letting the FMVs play out and the people talk a little bit and interject with a quip now and then. But yeah, I wasn't very high energy and it kind of showed. And I talked about this a little bit before, but I sort of put on this layer of disaffected irony there. It was very like, I don't really care that much about what's going on. I'm just vibing. And like, it's like transparently a facade. It's like very obvious that I'm anxious and I don't know what I'm doing yet. So yeah, that was the first stream that I ever did. And I'm very proud of myself for taking that step, even if I have noticed like tons of things I could have improved on. And I kind of have over the year. I think there's still a lot of things I can improve on. It's practically an infinite process. You're always incrementally improving. You can make big breakthroughs and improve a lot in one go, but generally speaking, it takes a while to learn. It was kind of harrowing, the idea of streaming to an audience that I'm not really looking at. Like, I see chat, but I don't see any people around. It's just words on a screen, you know? The idea of like talking into that was really imposing for me at the time, but I stuck with it. I got a little bit better over time, and I think I'm at a lot better place now. I still have like some issues. I still like, I can't solve overnight the speech impediments I have and things like that. I will still like stumble over my words sometimes, and it's a little bit hard for me to fix that, but yeah, I think overall I'm doing a lot better, and it's really cute to see where I was back then. It's like, it's really cool that that exists as a sort of artifact of where I was at that period of time. So yeah, that was fun to look at. I think we will end the stream in a bit. So, is there anything else I wanted to talk about before I go? Yeah, I think that's it. So I'm going to look into who is currently streaming now, and we'll do a little raid for them. Let's open this up. Look for raid targets. Okay. So Beatrix is doing a little art stream, so I'm thinking we're gonna raid her. Alright, so we're going over to Peculiar Little Rabbit, who's doing a spooky little art stream. Be nice and behave. And thank you all for being here. It was very fun to look over all this stuff again and sort of see how far I've come here. Bye, and have an awesome rest of the week. I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be doing more Halloween. Bye.